Well, it's very easy. You Google Elias Capriles main page, and then you get my web page. And you go into...
We also have the email address of Elias. So if somebody goes for us, then we can always ask.
I couldn't find you on Facebook. That's why.
Oh, Elias Capriles Arias, because I have a page as an author. I don't have one of these Facebook that normally people have, but another person, because I'm very abnormal, so another person opened me in her page. She opened a page for me, yeah, which is as an author. It's not my page. It depends on someone else's page, but it can be found. You put Elias Capriles Arias. Arias. A-R-I-A-S. Arias.
Areas.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, and then you for sure find it. And the web page by putting Elias Capriles main page in Google and googling it. And then my email is very simple, Elias Capriles, all together in small caps, with no separation, no dot, no dash, nothing, arroba gmail.com.
Arroba?
Yeah, this thing.
Fish.
Yeah. Okay, so this is it.
Can I have one more?
There is a question there first, and then you can have.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about the usefulness of lower rgal practices for Dzogchen practice. For example, are yoga tantra practices considered complementary or just inferior to Dzogchen practice as it is?
Okay, the highest practice is the one that works for you at a certain moment. If at a certain moment Dzogchen works for you, Dzogchen is much more direct and fast, and so you practice Dzogchen, you won't practice something else. But if Dzogchen is not working, then you should practice Anu Yoga. If Anu Yoga is not working, Maha Yoga. Maha Yoga is not working, then Yoga Tantra and so on down the ladder. Is more or less that the principle. But it's not that we have to first practice Hinayana and then practice Mahayana and then practice so on, to then practice Dzogchen. Also, many teachers teach that it's indispensable to do Dingondro first to practice Dzogchen. I received Dzogchen teachings, and not from Jagiellonian Norbu, but from two very traditional teachers, from Dudjun Rinpoche and Timle Norbu Rinpoche, his eldest son, without having done Gondro. This is not something that is an absolute requisite. It depends on many things. If you feel you have to do the Gondro because you have obstacles, it's very good to do it. And if you have to do the Gondro 5 times, it's very good to do it 5 times. But it's not like a passport or a visa you have to get enter a country or something like that. That's the way Jagiellonian Norbu teaches. Yeah? Clear? Yeah? Okay.
You mentioned a practice in which you observe thoughts, or you are aware of thoughts, and then they spontaneously dissolve, if I understood correctly, or something similar. Can you say something more? In what way you try to observe the thoughts, or what you pay attention to about the process, if it's possible at all?
Yeah, look, I explained already, but let's say, if there is a thought arises and you look at it, but you have a question also, no? You? Oh, no, you already made it, yeah, it's true. If there is a thought and you look at it, that would be a practice like shamatha, a practice of pacification. Then the thought would be like a wave in the sea. Yeah, you are here, and the wave is here, and it passes, and it doesn't disturb you. And then they go ever smaller, the waves, ever smaller, until the sea becomes calm. But when you gradually pacify the mind, the most that you can attain is a condition that is free from the subject-object duality and from thought, but still the true condition of reality is concealed by the first type of avidya, the ignorance of the true condition by a factor of stupefaction that has been going along with the mental stream of sentient beings since time immemorial. In Trikaya, you have to have previously the realization of Dharmakaya, otherwise it won't work. Then if you have this realization and you were in it and a thought takes you away from it and you look at it, the thought will not pass as a wave in the sea, but it will instantly disappear, it will dissolve, it will self-liberate. This is the first type of self-liberation in Trikaya. I will not talk about the other ones because that would be already going too far for a public teaching in a university. So, it's clear? Yeah. Then, when there is this instant liberation, then there is a moment of Dharmakaya. And you can be sure that this is Dharmakaya. But when you gradually pacify the mind, you can be nearly sure that this is not Dharmakaya. That this is very likely Kunji Lungmaten, the neutral condition of the base of all. And Jigmelimpa, a very great Dzogchen master, predicted that in our time, yogis would generally mistake Kunji for the Dharmakaya. And then that would be like cutting our own head, because we would lose the precious human birth that is giving us the opportunity to attain full realization by staying in a lower mountain, believing that we came to Mount Kailash, and stay in this little, very comfortable mountain hotel in the Alps, and then we are believing that this is Mount Kailash. So if there is any other question?
Actually, I had a question.
Okay, well, first you.
Thank you for your lecture. I want to ask about your perspective about Dzogchen in the Dzogchen community in Nyingma school and in Bonn and Mahamudra and a few other schools. And are the differences, what's your perspective on all those differences?
Okay. First, Mahamudra and Dzogchen.
Yeah.
The original Mahamudra was the Mahamudra Gangami that Tilopa taught Naropa on the banks of the Ganges, and that was nearly exactly the same or exactly the same as the original Dzogchen Semde, but it was totally different from Londe and from the peace instruction series, the Upadesha Varga or Mengakde. The principles of those are very different. Then at some point, Aro Yeshe Jumne, a Tibetan Dzogchen master of Semde, a master of Zen, and master of Mahayana and Tantra, he synthesized Zen with Semde, and he gave rise to this system of Kam, in which there are 4 stages, the 4 yogas. And that is nearly the same, or almost exactly the same, as the new Mahamudra with 4 stages, which is not the Gangami, which appeared for the first time in a text by Gampopa and then by the 3rd Karmapa. It gets even more clearly outlined in this text by the 3rd Karmapa, and then there is by the 8th Karmapa and so on, and there are many texts by many masters. These two are also very similar. They have the same principle. But the principle of Longde and Upadesha is totally different from Mahamudra. Now, what is the difference between the Upadesha of the Nyingmapa and the Upadesha of Bonn and the Upadesha of the Dzogchen community? Well, the Upadesha of the Dzogchen community is the Upadesha of the Nyingmapa, because even though Chogyal Namkhai didn't want to have his community as part of a school, like would be sectarian. He took this non-sectarian, this remain principle, so he didn't want to adhere to any tradition, and so he taught that particular way, which is very much in agreement with the principle of Buddhism, because if you feel very strongly that you are Buddhist, or that you are Nyingmapa, or that you are Dharmata, then you are grasping, and then you are not, you are creating a limit, you are taking yourself out of the true condition of reality. Then, what is the difference between the Bonpo Dzogchen and the Nyingma Dzogchen? There are some differences in terminology, in instructions, in method, but basically it's the same principle. For example, it seems to me, I don't know much about Bonpo Dzogchen, but it feels, I get the idea from what I have read that they use Kunji in the sense the Nyingmapa use Ji, the base. And for the Nyingmapa, Kunji is already samsara. For the Bonpo, Kunji seems to be Ji. And like there are other terms which are used differently also, but the principle of self-liberation seems to be the same. Welcome.
Okay, so my question was more technical kind, because we know that practitioners who practice Toggle, they practice it in the context of a retreat. So I always was wondering, if a practitioner goes into a retreat and then for some time develops visions, but then he goes back to leading ordinary life, do the visions get suspended, or does the practitioner have to integrate the visions with his everyday life?
No, what happens is that if he suspends it because he attained the degree of realization that will allow him to attain the total transference or the body of light, when he goes back into retreat before dying, then he will have such a degree of integration that he will be like Milarepa. Like Rolpa energy and cell energy will have overlapped, and then he will have what other people would see as this capacity of miracles.
But let's say somebody is at the level of the second or third vision, but he goes out of the retreat. He develops this capacity to that degree, but then he goes.
Why should he go out? Why would he go out?
So this would mean that when you start practicing Toggle, you practice it from the first vision to the fourth without interrupting the retreat?
If it works for you and you have the possibility of being all that time in retreat, yes. Even with a 49 days Yanti retreat, you can attain such a degree of integration that it's like jumping over a mountain and falling on the other side. I mean, when you enter, you are a normal samsaric person with some capacity of spontaneous liberation and a good practice of structure. And when you go out on the other side, you are something different already.
Okay.
So you don't need to be integrating something actively, because this level of practice of Togel is Lundrup Togel. It's not with intention like structure. If you still were not so integrated, then perhaps what you would do in the practice would be structure, because the visions, they remain in the dark room.
Okay.
It's not that you are going to be like someone who is diagnosed as a schizophrenic that is going seeing visions all the time in his ordinary life.
That's what I was wondering, if somebody interrupts the retreat at the level of the second or third vision, if he still has like a kind of after images, or that's completely gone with, going out of the cave.
No, the vision is all, but he has such a degree of integration
that
he will not have any problem anymore in his ordinary life.
Okay.
Well, it seems that now we finished.
May I have one more question? Maybe?
Okay?
And more historical one, if I may. I've encountered view that the development of Dzogchen historically could have been influenced.
Sorry, could you talk a little louder and clear?
Yes.
And the other people to keep silent, because I have problems.
I've encountered a concept that the development of Dzogchen historically could have been influenced by the stance of Mahayana on the Council of Samye. What's your opinion on that? Could it have been like that?
Can you tell me?
By
By the stance of Mahayana on the Council of Samye in the 12th century.
stanzas of whom?
Mahayana, the Chinese.
Oh,
The
okay.
Hashank Mahayana
Okay.
okay.
Okay. In my view, this is totally wrong, because previously to that, we have two books which were, we have many books of Dzogchen which are previous to that, but we have two books which are the Katandenga and the Santen Nigdron, respectively by Nup Nanken Nyingpo and by Nupchen Sangye Yeshe. And in these books it says that the Dzogchen is the primordial ancestor of all vehicles. Mahayana Zen is an application of Dzogchen for a certain Nagarjuna, according to the history to various histories of Nyingma Mappa. He was a master of Dzogchen Sende and of Zen also at the same time, and also the Mahayana, gradual Mahayana. And therefore, there were many teachers who were teachers of all of these traditions, including Namkhen Nyingpo, Nupchen Sangye Yeshe, Aro Yeshe Yumne. All these people had all integrated all this. But Zen is based on the principle of Mahayana, but it can give rise to a spontaneous liberation by some methods, which particularly in China were very much applied, and particularly this master of late 19th century until the middle of the 20th century, Xu Yun, the way he taught was very much like Dzogchen, and he went twice to Tibet, once before his enlightenment and once of his Satori, and once afterwards. So to me, this suggests that he drew from the Dzogchen teaching. The Dzogchen teaching should be the source of everything, because they have a principle. In Zen, they don't have Togel. This principle of total Nundru with visions, they don't have. So how could we imagine that Dzogchen could derive from Zen? Of course, they say that Huashan Mahayana or Mohayen left the Shu, and that this meant that his teachings would survive and that they would do so in the school of the Nyingma Mappa. But actually, Dzogchen has a principle that has nothing to do with the principle of Zen. And then what? Someone took Zen teachings and then they invented Dzogchen. No, Dzogchen was the original source and the primordial ancestor of all vehicles, and all other vehicles were taught for the people who didn't have the capacity to directly practice Dzogchen by Dzogchen masters, because a true master who is totally realized does not have a view of his own. This is called swamata in Sanskrit, a view of one's own. He doesn't believe anything because he knows that no concept can correspond to a true condition of reality. Then he teaches whatever is convenient to lead people on the path and according to their capacity. So the Buddha taught the Hinayana to the people who were afraid of total emptiness, that who would have freaked out if he taught them total emptiness, and they would have gone away from the path, they would have run away from the teaching. But in this way, they could develop to a certain point, and then Mahayana, and like that. This is more or less the principle. At least this is the way I see it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, now, we finished.